Happy to be joined by my next guest on the Sports Card Shop guest line from Premier Relations, CEO, Mr. Joseph Lynch. Joe, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, so tell us, I know a little bit about what you do, not everything obviously, but somewhat. But for those maybe listening or never heard of Premier Talent Relations, sort of what you do, what kind of things you do, and that sort of stuff. We got a show coming up we're going to talk about, but it's more to it than just a show, obviously.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we started in March 8th, 2023. My kids and I decided that I wanted to do something together with sports. My daughter is a sophomore in college, huge, exciting, big into sports. My son's a senior in high school, big into sports. And so we decided to take a little bit of a roller coaster ride and focus on some NIL type deals for high school athletes. That was kind of the startup of it, the goal of it. And along the way, we were going to kind of break it into four different areas. So the first area was NIL, which is name, image, and likeness. The second area was just meeting some awesome people along the way and getting them hooked up with appearances. The third thing is doing clinics for youth and really focusing on giving back to kids. And then the fourth thing is my son is a huge sports card collector. And so he's big into it. And we thought we would do two big shows a year and really focus on making it affordable, not only for the vendors, but also affordable for the kids to meet some professional athletes and still be able to spend some money while they're getting some autographs. So that's kind of the base of our business and what we're doing. And I've been fortunate enough. We currently represent 7 athletes, but I've connected with way more athletes than I expected in a 5-month, 6-month span. And so I'm helping other card shows and other restaurants and businesses book these players or these athletes for appearances, autograph sessions, clinics, etc.
Yeah, no doubt. In the NIL, anyway, I mean, unless you're living under a rock, you realize how big of a deal uh, this is. For many years, I'm sure remember, it was the old debate. Should college athletes be paid? The universities are making money from them and their performances. Um, but it's always a slippery slope. You're going to get,
Right.
I'm glad that some young athletes, male and female, can earn some money. You think going to college, it's hard to hold down a job, and whether even if you're not playing for it, even if you're just a student, between your studies and schoolwork. But then you add in the fact that if you're an athlete on top of that, makes that degree of difficulty even more. I always felt like there should be something, but what the answer was, it's so difficult. But now we have it. I like it. Me personally, I want to get your, but also I think there's, create some issues. You got, athletes sort of bout. I call it like the free agency of college, almost like in professional sports. We see a player get a new contract from a new team, and they're in a new. It sort of brought that element to the college. I think it makes it easier for a player, maybe if he doesn't like the money deal, or even besides money, he didn't get enough. He or she didn't get enough playing time, and hey, I'm out of here. And maybe a promise is made at a new school and that sort of thing. And so you see a lot of movement, if you will, from athletes. While I agree that they need to be sort of rewarded for their work, so to speak. Um, it also there's that other side to it where, you just have a lot of bouncing around, or hey, I'm out of here. Uh, Hey, who wants me, sort of thing. Some of your thoughts on the landscape, and now someone who's really on the front lines, right there with that.
Yeah, I look at it a little bit different because I'm not shooting for the super big athletes. I'm looking for the underdog guys, the offensive linemen that nobody looks at, the linebackers who nobody wants, special teamers. But not only for high school and college, really about these athletes who played in the pros, who after their contract is done, they don't have anybody that does anything for them. And not everybody, I won't say, but there's a huge population that is out there interested in coming to these card shows, interested in doing autographs. And when I grew up as a kid, I always thought an agent was Jerry Maguire, right? Like that's the only type of agent you could be. But there is sports management, marketing, and branding agents. And what with the NIL being so big for high school and college, it's also big for pro athletes. So if you can build a relationship and you can find a common ground and you find these athletes who want to give back to the community, it's an awesome opportunity, and it's not something to take advantage of. On the flip side of that, like you were talking about, there are opportunities out there for colleges, high schools to recruit these young athletes and say, hey, over in this school, you get a restaurant deal. If you come over to me, you get a brand new car, you get a car deal, you'll be able to play here, you get starting time. So that is, it is in the mix 100%. I'm not at that level. I'm not looking to be at that level. I really want to, our first athlete that we signed is actually a kid I've known since he was 5 years old. He's a quarterback for a football team here in Western New York. But he doesn't get the kudos because we're a school that loses a lot. We're a school that, doesn't throw the ball a lot, but he's a 4-sport athlete. He does a lot of really good things in the community. And so, I have him hooked up with a restaurant here locally. He gets a percentage of meals that are sold with his name on it. And, the hardest thing for us is navigating New York State Athletic Commission, making sure that he doesn't lose his academic eligibility if he wears a Gates Chili shirt into, a restaurant, and the restaurant he's at, somebody takes a picture and says, oh, he's advertising his school. That's not what we're about. So it's about finding these athletes who are looking for representation, who want to give back to the community, do clinics, do camps. If they can make a little bit of money so he can save up for college, great. The college athletes, if they want to make a little bit of money so they can, spend money on gas and meals. And I'm all about that. I'm all about helping wherever we can help and make it right.
It's nice to hear you, talk about maybe like when you talked about certain positions that don't get as much of the love as some of the skill set positions, and with high school and college. But even mention like even pro athletes who still want to do some things. And you mentioned that community, the word community, which is not just a word; it's an actual thing. I think that's important. And and so you mentioned that you're sort of unaffected by some of the bigger names, but how much of that trickles down? You don't have to mention names, but do you have someone maybe you're trying to work with, and they just have sort of dollar signs in their eyes, or they're sort of
So all of the guys that I currently represent are very much community based.
okay?
I make sure that I meet with them and talk to them about what I'm looking to do. And at the end of the day, I want this to be my full time job, but I know it takes a while to build something and build rapport. A little interesting, I won't take up a lot of time, but within a month of owning our business, I had Eric Devendorf I represent. He was our first signing, and he's the coolest guy in the whole wide world. He's from Syracuse, played in Syracuse, has a great community vibe in Syracuse, but he wasn't doing everything he could outside of Syracuse. And so him and I had a conversation. I booked him at a clinic up here in Rochester, and we just connected, and it was a great connection. Uh, the next day, I met Chris Joseph, and Chris Joseph signed on. And a week later, Eric was named to be the general manager of the Alumni Basketball League. And so I was asking him about that. I'm like, hey, we should bring that to Rochester. That would be really cool. And he's like, oh, you need to talk to this guy named Ricky down in DC. And so I call this guy named Ricky. Literally, I think Ricky and I were separated at birth. I've never met somebody so like me, but so well connected in the basketball community. And he's the VP of operations for the Alumni Basketball League. And 2 days later, I'm on the phone with Kareem Rush, who played with the Lakers and played in Minnesota or Missouri. I'm sorry. And, you know, they wanted me to come on and do game day operations and business development. And so I had the opportunity to speak with, I mean, a myriad of names: Tubby Smith, Jim Boeheim, Buddy Boeheim, Jermaine Jones, Mario West. The list goes on. I met Vernon Davis during this process. It's been chaotic, and it's something that I've been able to experience with my family, which is awesome. Um, and it's fun. Like we're in the sports world, which is a very small community. And if you do people right and you treat people right, and people want to work with you. And when they hear about you, you're getting phone calls from people that you didn't even know would ever know you. Like, ask me 8 months ago that I would have met Vernon Davis a month after my business opened, I would have been like, what? Like, seriously? But we've done some really cool things, and we're expanding a little bit more. But I don't want to be an agency. Like, I'm not looking to have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 guys. I want to have relationships with those many guys so that, if you called me up and said, hey, Joe, I'd love to get somebody on the podcast. Do you know anybody that played for the Red Sox? I'd be like, yeah, let me hook you up. Let me get you somebody. Or no, but I know a guy who knows a guy that, can get you somebody. So that's we want to go slow and steady. And eventually I do want this to be a career, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah, you want to build it right, and and so like you said, Rome wasn't, the old cliche, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. You jumped right in. Like, has it been, in your opinion, has it been harder than you anticipated, about what you anticipated, or even potentially easier than you anticipated?
I think every line that we're doing is different. So getting the guys to buy into what I'm selling has been easy. Because if you find a guy that has a story that they want to tell and they have nobody doing this for them, it's very easy because I'm a doer. I want to find them something to do. It benefits me, it benefits them. In terms of the clinics, you find people that want to do clinics, those are easy. Like, but the hard part of the clinics is not everybody knows all the guys that I'm bringing in, right? Like, so I'm working with somebody out of state right now for a clinic for Eric. Well, Eric's Syracuse, right? That's what people know Eric from, is Syracuse. So trying to get them to understand the impact he had as an Orangeman, the impact he had in his community back in Michigan, it's huge. That's my job. Like, I have to sell him to these. So that's a little bit harder. I would say the third thing that's hard with our line of business is appearances at like restaurants and stuff, because people don't understand the value of different guys. There are certain guys out there that'll charge $25,000 for a 2-hour appearance, and there are guys that'll charge 2,000. And you'll hear people say, "Well, I'm not going to pay 2,000 for this guy," and I'm like, "I want this guy," and I'm like, "Well, you want to pay 18,000 for him? You can have that guy for 2 hours." So my goal is a guy like that is to build a relationship with him so that I can get him multiple gigs versus the one-offs. But what I've learned is a lot of those guys charge that much because they don't want to do those appearances. You know what I mean? They're not interested in going out. And then in terms of the card show, I mean, it's an interesting take. I've done several events. I own a disc jockey business. I announce sports all the time. I'm always doing events. So events are not an issue to me. But for me, it's always about relationships with the events. So before I even scheduled our show, I made sure there was no other shows locally on our date. I made sure to call around, check with all the other vendors. The people hosting the shows, I guess the promoters, and make sure that I wasn't going to step on anybody's toes, because being new and you walk into somebody's territory, everybody becomes territorial. And so for me, the hardest part is making sure that I get to know people, by name. I get to know faces. I go to these card shows. My son goes to all of them because he loves them. So he's out shopping while I'm trying to shake hands and kiss babies. And the hardest thing is really getting the vendors to buy into what you're selling. And I learned that as we go into the next segment, probably. My tables were priced pretty high initially, which I don't think they were high compared to what I'm bringing into the show. But after talking to a few vendors, I said, all right, you know what, I'll run a special in September, see how we do, with the understanding that, you're getting 4 athletes at a show. There's not a lot of shows that bring in 4 athletes. And so, you're going to sell more at the show because of the 4 athletes and because I'm having it at a school district that I'm well connected with. So, it's not about a local Elks Club or, a hotel. It's nothing like that. It's a totally different vibe. And I have to build it and continue to support other local promoters and make sure that I get their support when we do ours. And it's everybody wins in this. Everybody, the vendors, the promoters, the kids, the families, the fans, everybody wins. So that's kind of, once again, back to the beginning of your question. The job itself is awesome. Like, there's nothing more passionate about than sports and, meeting people and helping people and giving back to the community. The hard parts are the things that I think nobody likes, right? Is, people being upset with you about something, or people not understanding the legwork that goes behind getting people bookings, because I don't get paid unless they get paid, right? So it doesn't matter what I'm doing. If nobody books them. I could work 40 hours on one opportunity for somebody, and they're like, nah, just kidding. So yeah, so it's a mix of emotional days, and at the end of it, if everybody's happy, it's a win for everybody. So that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, I like something you said too. Very very important. I want to mention. You mentioned like when you're looking at dates to put on a sports card show, right? You care about. Hey, is there another event that is at conflict with it? I don't want to step on toes, right? You hear, maybe not locally, but you hear in other states. I know promoters. I've talked to them, but like, hey, this, I just had a friend of mine. He went to a show in Pittsburgh, and they had another show literally in the hotel across the street. So you have two shows sort of competing with each other. Now, some might argue, well, that's kind of good because maybe someone would go to both shows, but to me, I think like you, I would want to be sort of the only thing that weekend, and in fairness to myself, or in your case, yourself, and the other promoters who are doing their due diligence, and you know, you also you want to set there might be future or current relationships there as well, so you don't want to get off on the wrong foot potentially. A lot of times you hear it like it's a cutthroat and people don't care. And they're like, I'm just going to do whatever the heck I want to do. If it happens to be the same day, so be it. And then you get some bad blood or some, back channel talking. And, like you said, then people can lose or just a
Yeah.
bad experience. And even in hearing you explain it, right, you care about the vendors, you care about the customers, you care about the people coming to the show. That's refreshing to hear because a lot of times with show promotion, some of that stuff's not always present. In your case, it is present, and it says a little bit. Well, it says a lot about sort of how you operate and some of the ethics that you have, and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So your son is sort of probably the knowledge base being a sports card guy. Has this process gotten you maybe like are you collecting, or have you been sucked in and became one of us as we
No,
like?
no, I tell him all the time. Like when I was a kid, if I had a Michael Jordan card and you had a Shaquille O'Neal card, that's what we traded, right? Like, oh, you like
Yeah.
Shaq, I like Michael. Okay, let's make a trade. Now it's like colors and numbers and autographs, and I'm colorblind, so half the time he's like, "Look at this card," and I'm like, "I don't even know what that is." But it's awesome to see the hobby pick up the way it has, specifically over the last few years, especially during COVID when people were doing a lot of online stuff. And it amazes me the amount of opportunities out there for cards, both in value and in terms of collectability and personal collections, PCs. Like I've learned a lot of the lingo, so there's things my son says, and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But we don't. I mean, we go to a lot of card shows. I mean, and he does a lot of stack sales on Twitter. And I'll throw a plug at the end for his Twitter handle in case anybody wants to jump on the stack sales. But he does a lot of that, and he's somebody that just is passionate about sports cards and he knows his stuff way. So for me, no, it's not even. I'll help run the shows. I'll set up and organize an event. He'll talk to me about names that he's interested in or ideas that he has. But he's done an awesome job with the card side of it. Way more knowledgeable than I'll ever be or ever want to be.
Speaking of the show, you got the premier sports spectacular October 21st. Before we get into who's going to be there, how many tables, where it is, all the important stuff, now that it's coming up, we're about a month away. Um, I asked you about the degree of difficulty with some of the other stuff. Talk about putting on this event. It's not here just yet, but get every day you're a day closer. Again, has it been? Obviously your son sounds like he's been a big help in the process. Has it been more difficult than you thought, about what you expected? Kind of like that same question, but now with the the card show side of the things?
So I think it's a weird type of difficult, if that makes sense, because it's not hard. I have a location already hooked up because I have a relationship with the location. Getting the athletes wasn't a problem. I think the problem is getting to know the vendors and getting to know what's going to draw them in and building a trusting relationship, right? So that's the hardest thing for me. And I have a lot of support from other promoters, so I'm thankful for that. Um, but at the same time, like the vendors have to trust you and they have to think that, this is going to be something I want to come to twice a year. This is going to be something I want to come to because they treat us well. And if they decide to do more than two shows, I know what it's going to feel like. I know that I'm going to be able to have good communication. I know that, there's going to be support systems in place when I get to the venue. I'm not going to feel like, rushed to do something. Um, and so for me, the difficult part is getting those relationships because I don't know the players. Like once I have an email list and once I have relationships, um, then it's cake, right? Like then it becomes just the next one is going to be 10 times easier. So yeah, that would be the hardest part. But like I said, I have a lot of support from a few of the promoters locally, which has really helped me make connections and being able to go to the shows and hand out flyers. Like there's not a lot of places that'll do that, but the few promoters that I have relationships with have been awesome about it. So I'm thankful for that as well.
Yeah, that's always great when you can, lay that groundwork and have those sort of open doors rather than a door closed in your face or someone that's territorial or just maybe just plain grumpy, just
Yeah.
saying like that. And so it's always nice, and then you can build on those, right? That's a foundation, and then you can build on it. So let's talk about the show itself. It's October 21st, but talk about it's your show. I'm not going to steal your thunder. Where is it? Tables. Who's there signing? Hours, all that good stuff and important stuff.
Yeah, so it's being held at Gates Chi Middle School, and the coolest thing about that for me, when I've been to all of these shows and been able to compare, is we have both the gym and the cafeteria. So it kind of opens up the vendors' tables, so people aren't so tight. We'll also set up a trading area for the kids to be able to make trades and open packs and do all the cool things that the kids like to do while they're there. We'll have JSA there to certify the authenticity of the four autographs. Um, so that's an awesome opportunity that I learned from my son. We'll have ISA grading there, submitting grading cards. That was new to me as well. I met a vendor who did that locally. I know you do SGC, I think, right? Is that what you did?
Yeah, I'm SGC sponsors the show, and so here at the Syracuse shows at the fairgrounds, I'm a representative for them for
Oh, very cool.
taking cards in. So yep, and there's more than one grading company, and it's like Burger King and
Yeah,
McDonald's. Like
yeah.
some people like the Whopper, some people like the Big Mac,
I
and
just
and
like
there's
hamburgers, so it's
yeah.
fine.
So and there's plenty of choices, and you can always expand on that as you grow the shows and your business and that sort of thing. But yeah, go ahead
Yeah.
too. I don't.
No, that's okay. So the show will run from 10 to 4, and there is a $5 admission for 13 and over, just to kind of cover some other expenses. The four guys that we have coming in, Jim Leyritz will be there. He'll be signing from 10:30 to 12:30. Daryl Talley will be signing from 1 to 3. Larry Johnson will be there from 12:30 to 2:30. And our newest signing, Kalisto, WWE Kalisto, will be there from 10 to 12. And he actually replaced Buff Bagwell. And there's an interesting story. So about 20 years ago, I was a semi-professional wrestler. So I have a lot of relationships with some of these guys that are old school legends that I brought in as a promoter as well as a wrestler. And Buff and I go way back. And he has a little bit of a history, if you read about it, with not some good choices. And over the last year, he's done an amazing job with his sobriety. And so up until just a couple weeks ago, he was so excited to come back to Rochester, meet people, see fans. And he got a call and asking him to speak at a recovering alcohol and addict meeting on the 21st. And so he called me up, he apologized. And fortunately I was able to find a replacement that is a wrestler replacement because I have a lot of wrestling fans that signed up for autographs, and I would have felt awful had I not been able to do something. But to piggyback on that discussion, even when I talk about relationships, when I knew Buff canceled, I called everybody personally that signed up for autographs to let them know, hey, do you want me to ship your money back, or do you want me to, do you want to just keep it for Kalisto? And the appreciation that I got back for those phone calls was awesome. Like, people were thankful that I made the calls personally and didn't just, have them show up at the show and be like, hey, Buff didn't make it. You got Kalisto now. And the autographs for all the guys are 25 each, or you can get all four for 80. It is one item per person. There's no item they won't sign. So that's awesome. And if somebody doesn't want an item, I'm providing the 8x10s. So when I get somebody signed up for an autograph, I email them, ask them what they're doing to make sure that we have enough 8x10s for everybody. And they'll be able to get a picture with the athlete. They'll get the autograph, and that'll be $25. I feel like is worth it for those four guys. It's not expensive, and it still gives the kids the opportunity to meet a former professional athlete and then go spend some money with the vendors, which is a huge, huge deal for me, because if a vendor's spending money to be there, I want them to make some money too. We'll have some raffles going on. We have an autographed Kevin Durant basketball that we'll be raffling off. We have Gems Cancer Foundation will be there. They'll be raffling off a lot of different sports memorabilia. I think we're giving away 6 prizes that they're bringing. We'll have pizza. I have Sweet Confections, who's bringing in some cookies to sell. So we'll just have a good time. It's a big, wide open area. It's Gates Charlie Middle School. As we get closer, I'll let everybody know the entrance door, but we'll have signs up and, a lot of parking. And for me, the coolest thing is the school supports it. So it's a huge school district. And I think, when you talk about attendance to a sports card show, you never know, right? Like, you never know what you're competing against. The regular, card dealers and card buyers are going to show up. They're going to be there. The collectors are going to be there. But how do you get new people in there, right? How do you get people that maybe, like, they go to the store and they buy a pack of Pokemon and they're like, oh, what do I do with this now? So how do you get them there? And how do you get the kids that are 4 and 5 and their parents are buying them a pack of baseball cards and they have no clue what they're doing, but now they walk in and there's, 30, 40 tables of sports cards and they're like, holy cow. So that's a great opportunity for us to give back to the community. Once again, everything you ever hear me talk about will be community based with our business, because it's about the kids and it's about families and allowing relationships to develop, no matter what that looks like. So yeah, that's our show on October 21st. I'm super excited. I haven't met any of these guys in person yet, so I've talked to all of them on numerous occasions to make sure that I didn't miss a beat with any of them, because once again, the relationships with them are just as important as the vendors. And they're looking forward to coming to Rochester.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback off a couple of things you said, starting with Buff Bagwell. Unfortunately, have another commitment that was important to him, and obviously outreach and staying clean and sober. He's doing that, and this gives him an opportunity to help others. It's not where, hey, I'm going to the beach, instead of, hey
Yeah.
Joe, I'm going to the beach, I won't be there. This is an important thing in the game of life, and so that's understandable. You got Kalisto there, so it's not like, and something you did that I gotta say, probably 60% of promoters wouldn't do. I mean, again, I'm it's speculation with numbers, but I've heard of this happening before, so I know it happens in this fashion. A lot of times, someone cancels, an athlete cancels, and the promoter doesn't say anything, people will travel in and, oh, sorry, we just found out, but you're very transparent, very upfront. Like you said, you called these individuals that had maybe pre-ordered, and just kind of, hey, this is what's going on. And I think people will appreciate that. I know if I was on the other end of that call, because I've seen that happen the other way, where someone cancels and people don't find out till they're already there, and it kind of leaves maybe a bad taste in their mouth. Or maybe a promoter, a little white lie, like, hey, I just found out, when maybe that's not exactly the truth, but yet you did that all above board in the right way. I think it speaks volumes about what kind of person you are and what kind of business you're trying to run. Like you said, heavy community, right? That's another thing sometimes lacking from people who try, who do what you do or trying to do what you do. Even mentioning like an area for the kids to trade, right? You get the kids at the forefront of your mind of for an experience, for they have an enjoyable experience because they're the future, right? An old guy like me, the sand's going through the hourglass. So it's that next generation that's going to carry the torch of the hobby forward again, and that you sort of you have your finger on that pulse, and it's refreshing to hear. And I mean the names you have, and Jim Leyritz is a World Series hero.
Mhm.
Whether you're a Yankee fan or just a baseball fan, you know about him. Larry Johnson, Grandmama,
Yeah.
and back in the 90s, he was a force, and Nick, Charlotte Hornets, and so a lot of great people, and like you said, you can take a picture. JSA, in my opinion, is the best authenticator in the business, and
Mhm.
and ISA grading there for grading needs. So you've really seemed to do your homework, your due diligence, sort of to cover every base, and a lot of times you hear with first shows when with a promoter, they sort of miss some things, and listen, no one's perfect, right? But you're doing your due diligence and trying to check all the boxes so that everybody from attendees to the athletes themselves to the vendors, and people in premier talent all can enjoy the day, and that sort of thing. Are you counting the days down now as you draw near?
Yeah, we're definitely counting them down every single day, making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and once again, still communicating, trying to get the word out about the vendor tables. I am shooting. I know sometimes people hate the competition, right? Like somebody's like, "Oh, there's going to be 100 tables there, so I don't want a table." But we have an opportunity to have 70 tables. We're at about 35 right now. I'd like to see it get up to 50. I think that's a good number for a first show, and having the price drop for the month of September. And just to be clear, I don't know how many people listen to this, but the people that did pay ahead of time when the prices were higher, I did give them money back when I lowered the show, so that once again, relationship focused. Because I want them to know, like, I'm not going to charge you, the original price and then run a special and be like, hey, sorry. But really, if you book after September 30th, like that's where the table prices, it's going to be supply and demand at that point in time. Because I feel like over the next couple of weeks we're going to see some people come in and book tables last minute, maybe multiple tables at $50 each. So yeah, I mean, for me, once again, I've said it a million times during this podcast and this interview conversation, it's really just building reputation and making partnerships and opportunities for kids. And even you throw yourself under the bus being the old guy. Listen, if you want to trade at the trading table with your older partners or your friends or whoever, listen, no problem with me. I have no shame in my game. It's all right.
Yeah, no, another thing, another feather in your cap. I'm gonna give you some shine here. Even like you said, that anyone that prepaid at a higher level now with the special, you've sort of you've compensated them the difference. That's an old cell phone provider
Yeah,
trick, right? You were
it's
one
the bait
plan,
and
then they do
switch.
the new special, and
Yeah,
you're stuck, right? You're not doing that, and that again speaks volumes to your morals and ethics, and how how you care, and you're not looking to just, hey, I'm just doing this show and I'm out of here, type of thing. I don't really care. You're building your company, your brand, and you want people to enjoy it and come back, and then more people. Word of mouth, as you probably well know, is one of the best advertising you can get. So
right.
obviously, this will air before the show, and then I usually any show I attend, Joe, I will do like a follow up broadcast, just sort of a review, like a recap episodes. So
Perfect.
that'll be
Thank you.
something that people can hear how the show was. Better yet, come yourself and
Right.
find out yourself. But for those that maybe and we're worldwide podcast, so for people that are not unfortunately not close enough to attend, they can at least hear how it went and what it was like. So I always usually do a show recap of any event that I attend. So, but again, it sounds like you're ahead of the curve compared to sometimes other promoters I've heard about and how they do run their business. And again, that's refreshing to hear. So I appreciate you making some time. I know you're busy getting all this as we approach that and the other stuff. It's not like you're just doing a
Yeah.
show. You've got other irons in the fire, as they say as well. So I appreciate you making some time. Take all the time you need, Joe. Give out all that information, social media, websites, social media handles. You even mentioning your son, what your son does.
Yep.
Give out as much of that as you deem necessary.
So pretty much anything you look at social media wise, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram are all Premier Talent Relations. So that's nice and easy. If you are looking for stack sales, my son's card Twitter handle is Main Event Cards, just like the main event of a wrestling show, a boxing match, just the main event cards. You can find him on Twitter. He does stack sales on a regular basis. And then our website is www.premiertalentrelations.com. And all updates, all of our people that we represent are on there. Anytime there's news or anything surrounding those guys or women, that'll be up there. Once again, we're slow and steady growing. We currently represent Eric Devendorf, Chris Joseph, Jonathan Coachman, the coach, Jermaine Jones. So if you work at a company or anything, Jermaine Jones does a great job with mental health. He was just on the cover of Mental Health magazine. It's a big thing going on right now in the world. So give us a call for Jermaine. Tim Redding, local Major League Baseball player, great guy. And then former WWE Tag Team Champions, Demolition. We also book them and help with them. So, definitely check out our website, follow us on any of the social media, and, definitely buy some cards from the stack sale, however that works. Just know you stack them and you buy them, and it's great. So good times.
Yeah, and we'll get that stuff out there on our social media as well, Joe. Like I said, and do some cross promotion and get that buzz hopefully going. And I guess we'll see you here in a few weeks as we head towards the premier sports spectacular. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, John. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.